The world has a plastic problem, and hopefully this treaty can help stymie some of the plastic pollution that's happening right now, because it is bad. There is so much plastic waste that's in the ocean right now. That is crazy, between the Pacific Gyre, the huge garbage patch in the ocean. Plastic is just sticking around for so long, and it's existing plastic. So it's already in there. This can't be necessarily recycled, a lot of this. So how are we going to deal with it? How are we going to clean it up? Here we go. So you have a treaty, maybe. Because I'd heard that a lot of the plastic waste actually comes from a small number of sources. So maybe we could start stemming that, and that would have a huge tangible impact. So each year, an estimated 11 million tons, man, of plastic waste enter the ocean, equivalent to a cargo ship's worth every day. Oh my gosh. The rising tide in the oceans and beyond is just a symptom of such wider problems. Unsustainable product design. For real, why are things lasting so long, and why are we constantly reusing these things? Short-sighted consumption. Like, you get something from a fast food restaurant and they give you something that's made of styrofoam that's going to last on the world for 1,000 years. I don't get it. I would pay. I should have the option, right? Give me the option. I'll pay $1 more to have that sustainable option. And insufficient waste management. Yeah, a lot of it is just a lot of people don't have the ability or the waste drop off places. It's like there's no place for it to go. To curb the flood, says Jenna Jambek, an environmental engineer at the University of Georgia, we need to take more action. It needs to be further upstream in the production process. So true. That's exactly what negotiators from 193 countries are setting out to do when they meet in Nairobi, Kenya next week. This ambitious goal to create a negotiating community that will hammer out within 2 years a new global treaty intended to curb plastic pollution. An already released proposal modeled on the UN's climate treaty would have nations adopt action plans, set binding waste reduction targets, and establish monitoring systems in a new global scientific study advisory board. Quote, "It's about time," says Chelsea Rockman, an ecologist at the University of Toronto, who has called on nations to tackle the issue. Yeah, I mean, it is bad. How are they going to do this, though? The monitoring is an interesting idea. Would they use satellites? Many countries allow companies to keep such numbers private. So of course, they're not. Ocean Conservancy, for example, has struggled to find out how many recycled plastic firms are using. Researchers are still pondering which numbers would be the most useful and how the treaty might help make that information more available. Oh, okay, here we go. This is what I was talking about. Remote sensing via satellites and drones, for example, could more easily identify plastic pollution trends, reducing the need for labor-intensive ground surveys. Now, ground surveys for the entire world? I mean, that's going to be, sheesh, that's bad. I mean, satellites, some kind of remote sensing is definitely going to be needed. I wonder if there's like a specific wavelength that could be used in order to like specifically look at plastic, like the bonds within plastic that would be different than what's found in nature. So maybe we could actually use off-target wavelength monitoring. How much plastic pollution is too much? It's clear that plastic bags, discarded fishing gear, and microplastics can kill wildlife, but scientists are just beginning to figure out how to calculate those risks. It'll be challenging in the short term to stop using virgin plastic. A big reason is that many uses of plastic are seen as essential. Single-use plastic items are common in healthcare, for example, to prevent contamination and infection. That is a huge thing for me personally, actually, in the lab. So, there's so many times in the lab where we're using something that's plastic, using it once because it's sterile, and then throwing it away. And here I am trying to devote my life in order to make this problem better through minimize the human impact on the environment with my own research. And here I am having to use plastic a lot in order to do this. Glove waste, PCR plates, tips are a big one. When you're doing molecular biology, you're doing pipette tips, and you're changing the tips after every single use. And it's one of those things where you're actually encouraged to change your tips. I mean, you don't want to use the same tip because you could make the entire experiment contaminated. And if you do that, then you got to do the whole thing again. And so it is such an interesting problem in science, is the renewable use of these materials, and actually figuring out how science can be more renewable as well. I think about when I was an undergrad, so then girlfriend, now wife, we made a pact to never buy paper towels. Just never buy it. We have never bought a paper towel as a couple. And I wanted to do something like that with the lab, right? With the lab that I was going in. So I come in as an undergrad and I'm like, these paper towels, man, we should never buy paper towels. We should just get a regular towel, a reusable towel like we do at home, and we can wash our hands with that. And everyone's just like, no. Are you crazy? It's going to cause such a contamination risk. Who's going to wash the towels? Who's going to wash the hand towels? At home, it's like we can easily throw it into the laundry and it's not that big of a deal. But, in the lab, it's this whole thing, like washing the towels. And it's it was just instantly rejected for good reason. And I still don't do it, to be honest with you, at the lab, because it's just not feasible for those reasons. Do you want like a contamination risk again that could impact the entire lab's research? Probably not. It's not the best. And so I just made the personal decision to only have that done for me at my house. But it's yeah, it is it's a weird problem. How can science be more renewable as well? It's a really good question. Hopefully we start curbing our plastic emissions, though. Our plastic waste is a huge problem for the earth. So cut down. Figure out how you can cut down on your plastic waste as well.